Hey everyone, welcome. Look, if you've ever stared at a blinking console cursor on a brand new piece of networking hardware and thought, all right, where do I even begin? You are exactly in the right place. Today, we're taking a really structured, field-tested journey straight through Chapter 17 of our Cisco IOS guide. We're not just memorizing syntax today, no way. This explainer is built to be a true, real-world deployment guide. I'm going to walk you through the exact sequences that professional IT engineers use literally every single day to navigate, secure, deploy, and troubleshoot enterprise networks with total confidence. Okay, let's dive into this. We're essentially looking at a day-in-the-life journey here. We'll start with navigating Cisco IOS modes, then move right into day one device hardening, deploying real-world configurations, managing security and NAT, and finally we'll wrap the whole shebang up with the golden troubleshooting sequence. Let's get to it. Section 1. Navigating Cisco IOS modes, from read-only to full control. Understanding this command line hierarchy is absolutely the first crucial step of any engineer's day.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how that hierarchy works. When you first log in, you land at the very bottom, User exec mode, which you can spot by that greater than symbol. It's a very limited, read-only mode. From there, you type enable and escalate yourself into privileged exec mode, shown by the pound or hashtag sign. This is where you get full diagnostic access to really look around. But to actually change anything, you have to type configure terminal to escalate one step further into global config mode, where your prompt changes to config hashtag. Knowing how to seamlessly move up these levels and using shortcuts like end to jump straight back down to privileged exec, well, that's just the bread and butter of your daily workflow.
Now, as you're navigating those modes, efficiency is everything out in the field. These 4 shortcuts are absolute lifesavers. If you ever blank on a command, simply type a question mark at the prompt. iOS will instantly give you context-sensitive help, listing every valid keyword right there, so no manual needed. To save keystrokes and dodge typos, just hit Tab to autocomplete your partial commands. If you need to rerun something you did 5 minutes ago, Show History pulls up your recently entered commands. But honestly, the most powerful tool here is the word do. If you're deep inside configuration mode and suddenly need to check an interface state, you don't have to back all the way out. You just type do show ipint brief to run that privileged diagnostic command right where you are. It's a real game changer.
Section 2. Day 1 device hardening, securing the perimeter. So you've unpacked a new switch, you've navigated the CLI, but before routing any actual traffic, you've got to secure the device against threats. And here is your strict sequential Day 1 checklist. Now listen, the order of operations here matters immensely. Step 1. Lock the front door. Set up privileged exec password using enable secret. Step 2. Run service password encryption. That ensures no plain text passwords ever appear in your configuration files if someone happens to peek at them. Step 3. Secure your local console line with a strong password and require a login. Step 4. Set an auto logout timer, something like exit timeout 50, so an idle session doesn't just sit there as an open vulnerability. And finally, Step 5. Commit all of this to memory using copy running config startup config. I want to pause here for a second and issue a very serious warning about that last step. Never, ever use the copy run start command before you've set your enable secret password. If you save an unsecured configuration, that completely vulnerable state gets written directly to the device's flash memory. What does that mean for us? It means if the device loses power and reboots, it's going to boot right back up, wide open to attackers. Always, always protect the keys to the castle before you save.
And part of that Day 1 hardening also involves establishing a legal perimeter. Banners aren't just there to say welcome to the corporate network, they're actually critical legal tools. You should always configure a banner mod, your message of the day, and a banner login. And these absolutely must contain strict language explicitly stating that access is for authorized users only, and that unauthorized use is subject to prosecution. Because without this specific unauthorized access warning visibly displayed on the device, any legal action you try to take against a malicious intruder later on, it can be severely compromised in court.
Section 3. Deploying real-world configurations, bringing the network to life. The device is locked down and legally protected. Now we actually build the network. When you're configuring interfaces, it's vital to grasp the difference between physical and logical setups. A physical interface, like your WAN link to an ISP, requires an IP address, and crucially, it must be manually enabled using the no shutdown command. Physical ports are administratively down by default out of the box, but on the flip side, we have logical loopback interfaces. You might be wondering, why create an interface that doesn't physically exist? Well, we do it for stability. Creating a loopback ensures that routing protocols like OSPF always have a consistent, stable router ID. So if an infamous backhoe cuts your physical WAN fiber and causes that link to flap rapidly up and down, your logical loopback stays perfectly up, keeping your internal routing domain completely stable.
Let's look at another real-world scenario, this time on the land, onboarding a new human resources department. Obviously, security dictates HR needs their own private segment. So we achieve this by creating a virtual LAN. You jump into global config mode and type VLAN 30, giving it the descriptive name HR. Then, you dive into the specific switch interfaces for their desks. Let's say gigabit Ethernet 0/5 and 0/6. You set those ports to access mode and map them straight to VLAN 30 using switch port access VLAN 30. Boom! Just like that, you've logically grouped and isolated an entire department's traffic right at the switch level.
Section 4. Security and NAT. Controlling traffic access. Our internal departments are talking, but now we need to manage how they reach the outside world.
Think about a typical small office. They usually only get a single public IP address from their ISP, right? But they have hundreds of internal laptops and phones. The solution to that puzzle is Port Address Translation, or PAT. The setup is a highly logical four-step flow. First, create an access control list that matches your internal private subnet. Second, configure the NAT statement pointing to your WAN interface and make sure you use the magic keyword overload. That tells the router to translate multiple internal IPs to different ports on that one single public IP. Finally, you just tell the router which way the traffic is flowing. Mark your LAN interface as IPNAT inside and your WAN interface as IPNAT outside.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we secure that traffic flow. We definitely don't want just any random traffic leaving the network. Using a named extended ACL, which we've cleverly called web_only, we can explicitly permit TCP for port 80 and port 443 that effectively allows only standard HTTP and HTTPS web traffic. We then drop literally everything else using deny IP any. But the absolute crucial point here is the application. You always want to apply these lists inbound, as close to the source interface as possible. Why? Because dropping unwanted bad traffic early on means it never even enters the routing engine, which dramatically reduces the CPU load on your router. It's a huge performance saver.
Section 5. The golden troubleshooting sequence. We've navigated, hardened, deployed, and secured. Now we shift to ongoing operations and troubleshooting.
So you get a ticket. A user calls the help desk in a panic and says they can't reach a critical host on the network. And of course, it's always the network's fault, right? Well, panic is not an option for us. We need a structured, systematic way to isolate the problem. Is it a chewed-up physical cable? Is it a routing protocol issue? Or maybe an ACL is blocking the traffic? Let's look at how we methodically diagnose this without breaking a sweat.
Before I give you the exact commands, I need to provide another mentor's warning here regarding diagnostics. Cisco IOS has these incredibly powerful debug tools. They literally show you packet-by-packet processing in real time. But beware. You have to use debug commands very sparingly in production environments. You absolutely must use an ACL filter to restrict the debug output to a single IP, because if you run a blanket debug on a busy core router, the sheer volume of text output will max out the CPU and literally crash your entire network. And most importantly, actually scratch that, it's more of a strict rule. Always remember to turn off all debugs immediately with undebug all the exact second you finish capturing your data.
So how do we safely and systematically troubleshoot without crashing the whole network? Well, I am literally handing over the keys to the kingdom right here. This is the golden sequence. These are the absolute first 5 commands every engineer should run in this exact order when you log into an unknown device that's having issues. Number 1, show version. This lets you check the uptime and see if the device recently reloaded or crashed. Number 2, show IP interface brief. This quickly scans all physical and logical port states so you know what's up and what's down. Number 3, show IP route. Verify the router actually knows the path to the destination. Number 4, show running config to review the active setup and spot any obvious misconfigurations. And finally, number 5, show log to check for any critical syslog error events behind the scenes. Let me tell you, mastering just these 5 commands will answer 80% of the mysteries on your network.
By structuring your approach, from understanding the command line hierarchy on minute 1 to hardening the device on day 1, logically configuring interfaces, controlling NAT, and then employing that disciplined golden sequence for troubleshooting, you transform a chaotic blinking cursor into a highly predictable, manageable environment.
With these field-tested principles from Chapter 17 mastered, the only question left for you is, are you ready to deploy your next device with total confidence? Take these foundational commands, apply them sequentially in your own environments, and just watch your network stability soar. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and happy configuring.